gentlemen, to this week's episode of Generation Dan. I am your enthusiastic, eccentric, and excitable Zoomer host, Kayla McDuff, and I'm joined by my two lovely co-hosts.
I'm Atlas Novak, I'm your millennial, and I too have a word of the day calendar, like Caleb.
I gave up on word of the day, and I am Dino the Genetic Marvel. I've just said, you know what? I know a lot of words. I'm just going to leave it there. I don't need to grow unless it's a medical term. Then that one's going to still grow for the next few years. That's for sure. Until I get a robot body. Welcome, everyone.
And our guest today, he's a comic. He's an improviser. He's a filmmaker who totally doesn't do porn. It's Nik Nieblas, everyone.
Nik Nieblas, how's it going, everybody?
Nieblas, fuck, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Nobody Caucasian knows how to say this.
That's fair. Like, realistically, if they incorporate all the same letters, I just go with it. My last name is Bletsis. I'm like, yeah, no, that's fine.
For sure.
Close enough.
It's cool.
Yeah.
What was that? Is that Dino Blastoise? Is that how you pronounce it? You're like, no.
Yep, that's it. That's the one. I have people, bless us. And I'm like, yep, that's totally correct.
You get Blastophilus?
Oh,
Yeah.
All sorts. And I'm
Blast,
like, listen, it is the shortest Greek name I've ever encountered. It is only 7 letters, and people literally cannot stop fucking up. There you go. And I'm like, that's fine.
I got
Caleb,
I got Needle Dick. I got Nibble Piss. That was a good one. You know, that would last
Nibble
for a
Piss is
while.
pretty good.
I'm
That's
probably
good.
gonna
It's
talk to my
good.
therapist. I'm gonna talk to my therapist about that one.
No
fair.
cock. I've gotten that before.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah,
Atlas was about to, I think, comment on my mood lighting here. This is a new system I'm developing here. So this is my mood gauge here, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're confused about it, right now we're on purple. We're cool and we're chilling, having a good time. But the more and more that you guys start talking about old guy shit, it's gonna ramp up. We're gonna get until we get to like DEFCON 1 red, then I'm pissed.
Yeah, that it just looks like you're sitting in a toaster oven. Like,
yeah, then it looks like I'm talking about old guy shit. Talking about old guy shit. Right now, we're gonna bring it back to purple.
So I recently started an LLC this week, and I was a lawyer, and
the accountant is saying it's gonna work out great.
Oh
yeah.
God.
Yeah, tell me more about taxes, and 401ks, and retirement, and health insurance.
Tell me more. Does he have a 401k?
it's all fake and doesn't matter, but somebody will fuck you up if you don't take it seriously.
Yeah,
every time. That's the worst part. Is the people that it becomes enjoyable to are fucked in the head. This is the problem. You have to take it seriously, and you do have to do it, but it never gets fun. If it gets fun, you have a problem. You need to talk to somebody.
I don't think Caleb actually wanted to talk about taxes. I get the sense that he didn't actually want to talk about taxes.
You know, I mean, sarcasm is lost on these guys because there's so many other things going on inside of their brains at any given moment. So, I mean, I've just gotten used to it at this point.
You know what it is? I think that I know it's like old guy shit or whatever, right? But like, I think the older this right here is the epitome of old guy shit. Which is like, you know, the older you get, but like
that cadence exactly.
But like that, it is like, okay, the older you get, the more you realize shit doesn't matter. And I feel like the more you push stuff out that doesn't matter. And then you're like, somebody's like, taxes, that's so stupid. Now, hold on, tax. Now, wait a minute. There's some stuff about taxes. You should really just listen a minute, you know?
Hang on!
But then, but then you start making like, the reason why like dad jokes are so popular, like dick jokes, fart jokes, all the stuff that you can say that's like so simple, but makes a kid like die laughing, is because like you realize like, man, I just want to get back to them simple joys.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah, man.
You don't want to troll all the time for poon.
Oh yeah.
Just want to make a 6-year-old laugh.
Well, here's the thing: is that if you troll for poon for long enough, you develop some techniques. Like I don't know if you've ever tried this one when you're trying to pick a girl up, but ask her if she likes Italian cream desserts, specifically cannolis. You ever tried this move? So I'll explain it to you. It's super simple. What you do is you take a marker and you get you get a cannoli wrapped in tinfoil. Okay, you take your cannoli wrapped in tinfoil, write your phone number on the cannoli, and you special airdrop it to a girl. Say, I don't know, maybe she works in a crystal store or something. And then you just pose a simple question. You look her in the eyes and you say, "Hey, you like cannolis?" and you hand it to her. And
The
you walk
purple
away.
lighting makes that so much creepier. Right? You have no idea.
A lot creepier.
Yeah.
You need some sort of mask or something, like even just an eye covering, like a Ninja Turtle.
And it's
really-
like, hey, do you like cannolis? Oh, no? Oh.
Well, this one's yours anyway, so... Okay.
That's interesting.
Caleb, my old roommate had like the different, like you could control it from your phone.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Are you
so
really?
he had it in not just the living room, but the refrigerator. I'm like, guy,
I'm sorry, what?
I don't need the eggs to be purple.
He's
I
a gamer.
Really don't.
He's a
He
gamer.
had under chassis
Yes.
lights in his
Do you remember those?
under his butter.
Yeah, I know, but it was just
People
the
were
kind
like,
of thing
my
where it's like-
Cavalier has got the pimpest lights all underneath it. I'm driving, you can see under my car, and you're like, it's a Cavalier, man.
I
Who
just want to go
cares?
to like open his fridge, and then you go to it, but the fridge is like,
yeah.
you know, got it on
He
airbags.
just put so much like unnecessary shit where it's like, dude, you don't. This is the guy who did the homemade fog machine. It's the same guy. But yeah.
I've got a couple ideas. Hold on,
Yeah.
before you continue to tell me exactly what a homemade fog machine entails. I imagine it's just like a dude like boiling a pot of water.
No, that would be
Multiple.
less stupid than what actually happened. So at the
I
beginning
don't
of
know how.
October of last year, he goes, "I'm gonna make a fog machine," and I was like, "That's stupid because we live on a second floor apartment where we have to have the AC and fans going because it's hot up here. Don't." And he's like, "Well, Halloween or whatever." I'm like, "Just don't." November 2nd, I come home. It looks like I'm going to get stabbed by Jack the Ripper. It took him a month to figure out. And by the time you get to October 31st, if you don't have it, just stop. You lost. The end. But no, he had to keep going on his stupid little project. Because in his head, he thought, oh, I'm going to have fog around our feet and it's going to be all moody. I'm like, that's not how air works.
How many hours and how much money went into making that?
It involved like a styrofoam cooler and like the ducting, the thing you would use in like a robot costume for your arms and legs. I don't know what the rest of it entailed. I just saw the outside of the chassis.
Well, it would have had
I'm
dry
pretty
ice in there.
Yeah,
you could
probably.
get one for like $30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you rent it, and then they give you the dry ice, you pour it in, and you just keep on refilling it, and it just pumps it out, right?
Yeah, but in his head, he's like, no, I have to make it myself.
I kind of
it's
like
just-
that, like the whole idea of like, you know what, like even if you don't, you could just buy one, and like I kind of like the idea of like I could make it myself and be like kind of cool or whatever. But it's also
Okay,
like
yes.
when somebody was like, I'm gonna make a toaster from scratch, and they
Yeah.
realize like how freaking impossible it is to make all those kinds of things,
But
right?
a
It's like-
toaster can be used all year round and for like something useful. A fog machine is like
But
for
sure, but
Halloween.
but you're
we-
never gonna get the quality,
Yeah,
right? Like if you're gonna build it yourself.
yeah, and like okay, so we didn't have trick or treaters because it's like a building with like a you got to put a key in to even get inside. No trick or treaters. We weren't having a Halloween party. We didn't even have visitors coming over because our living room looked like the junkyard from Wall-E. So it was just stupid.
I believe Atlas is a party pooper. That's what I believe he is. He's just whatever it is.
Every party
everyone's
needs one.
I
Nah.
can't be a party pooper if there's no fucking party to have the fog machine going.
I feel like a fog machine.
I think we
How
all
the
went
party
on
started.
pro. Yeah, I think we all went pro fog machine, and like Atlas, you're on the outside here.
Oh man. Well, since I've
Alice.
taken that massive L, let's ask Nick some questions.
It's always good to make the hosts of a podcast feel disenfranchised on their own show.
Well, I'm only one of them. The other two are quite enfranchised.
Oh, cool! I got the majority of the team then.
Yeah.
Technically, if you get these two are against you, I'm still the majority. I'm as big as a house. It's fine. So
So I only need to win over Dino.
Pretty
that
much.
works. But
What's
if you
an
only got
embarrassing
cable,
song from your playlist?
An embarrassing song from my playlist, not a goddamn one. I'll
Fuck
tell you that right now.
Good answer. Good answer.
The songs that the probably most embarrassed thing about my playlist is that it is entirely the years between 1998 and 2001.
Interesting.
1998 and 2001. Yeah, those are good years, though.
And
Good years. That's fair.
Screamo. That's it. Like it's all screamo, emo, and like anything associated with like Third Eye Blind in the '90s, essentially. Like
Sure.
a lot of Census Fail, Seosin, and
Your
like
mustache says that though. That's fine. It's not.
you know, I don't know if this is like a weird, like, because the thing is, I'm talking to mostly like people my age. We have that whole, what's the recent concert that came out of, like, it was like when we were young, right? It's got like every band we used to listen to in high school. And I'm like, damn. But I'm like, yeah, those are all the bands on my playlist.
You're like, I want to see no one that's going to go to that. I want to see those bands. I don't want to see any of those people. Not one of those people.
I didn't go to my high school reunion last year. I'm not intending on going this year.
I'm up in Canada, and that's not a big thing up here. But like, is it a big thing everyone in the States? Yeah.
Yeah, I went once to like, I think holy shit, I've been out of high school for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I just had one of those, and I was like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I just don't care. Number one, pandemic. Number two, I didn't like you guys when I was there.
Sorry. Caleb, how's school now?
So you'll notice the lighting of the room has changed. You'll notice, right?
I like it. I think I'm like, okay, I'm saying some old guy shit right now.
So we're talking about music from like the 90s and like the 2000s. That's what I like to call my in utero phase because it's more of a literal interpretation. I don't know.
Joke.
That joke has layers.
Yeah.
So many.
Placenta.
Yeah. One of them is placenta that definitely was consumed and is still being consumed, probably.
Do we have hippie parents?
We have parents that are super into the idea of like being connected.
Are they still
Like,
together?
That explains the crystal.
No. They never got married. My dad said, "See ya."
Super into the idea of being connected.
Not into pregos. I'm out.
Well, here's the thing. My dad had a different idea, and he was more connected with the legal system, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
I thought you were going to say my dad was connected with everyone.
With everyone. No, the only things my dad liked to connect with are like fists and faces. You know what I'm saying? Let's go.
Sure.
Jeez. Yeah, that got groans. That's all good though. I'm
take a
not
moment
even
for our
into it right
narcissistic fathers and mothers, please.
Ayo.
Good job, everyone.
Pour one out for one's homies.
No, you know what we should applaud is the fact that we are actually doing anything at all, being raised in the environments that we were.
I feel that way. I feel that way. I'm proud that people are recognizing how bad our mental health was. I'm really enjoying that. Just for the simple fact that the idea is you should always be aiming for full, and we were fucking empty. We were doing just enough to stay above zero.
Yeah.
That's
like,
grind
people, all that stuff.
They're the worst. They're the worst.
I think that's the whole nostalgia resurgence stuff, right? That's like I grew up on 90s TV or whatever.
Yeah.
Keep that light purple. Hold on, I'm not gonna go old guy yet.
We're keeping it here, but still creep.
But like Saturday morning cartoons and like TGIF Friday were my shit, right? And that
Absolutely.
stuff was like just brought so much happiness to me. So like now, like that's the stuff that I write. That's the stuff that I like. I only want to like experience joy because I feel like my childhood, that was the only moments. But then everything that wasn't TV was dog shit,
Even
so,
back
like,
then, yeah.
Even back then, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
and so
absolutely.
now that I'm an adult and I have control over like whatever I can do or whatever, it's like, I'm gonna just try and be happy as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. One thing that even my wife and I realized the other day, where it's like the idea at the end of the day, where you're like, you know what, I just want to fucking take a gummy, smoke a joint, maybe have a glass of wine or whatever, and watch some TV or watch some YouTube, something like that. You're like, you know what? That is peak fucking time where you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna enjoy life. Listen, I worked, I'm good, I was productive. Fuck it, And it's weird to actually appreciate that shit. Because I always look at my parents and I'm like, why don't you guys do anything? They're like, we're doing something, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna go do something. You guys, losers, see ya. And I was out. But
I've been reading a lot of books, just in general. Just because I got Audible and realized with my ADHD, it's like it allows my brain to just go and like focus on something, and then it allows me to like fold laundry or do dishes or something. But like, so I've been just listening to like tons of books, and I've been listening to ones like recently about like anarchism and what's the laziness does not exist, I think is the title of one of them. Like all
like
these
anti-work stuff, or
like anti-work stuff, for example, and it's a little, that fucking guy that went on the Fox News thing, man.
Yeah,
What the fuck, dude?
That guy was okay. That's one of those things where the guy was like, "Oh my god, 15 minutes of fame," and the rest of them was like, literally, the rest of the subreddit was like, "Don't go on Fox News. They're media
of all
trained,
the places,
you're not."
too.
Of all the places, yeah.
Go on MSNBC or like
go on Joe Rogan. How about that?
Actually, you know what? I take that back. Go on Fox News, but like have a fucking agenda, dude, because they're idiots. Like they have to dumb down their shit to their audience.
Yeah, if you don't want them with a plan, you can dunk on them hard and make them look stupid. But like
honestly, he went with no plan and then told him about his dog walking. I'm like, are you fucking like
Guy,
even if you are?
That's not a fucking job.
I got nothing against dog walkers. I got nothing if this guy decided my parents they decided to pay for whatever, and I just don't think I should work. Stand by your fucking principles, but he's all of a sudden turning it around to I dog walk, but it's 20 to 30 hours. And he even said later he inflated his hours because he didn't want to. What are you doing? The whole point of your subreddit is anti-work. Nobody's expecting you to fucking work. At least you can stand for it, you asshole. God. And they I believe they are a.
Who gives a shit?
I give a shit. God damn it. Dino.
Do you know him? Do you know him? Does he live down the street? Who
I don't know them, but I do think it's important that it's a little thing. It doesn't matter to me, whatever. So, you want to be called Dino. I don't know if that's your real name or not. Who cares? It's not skin off my back. I think I understand where the frustration comes when it's like, well, you're just making me do something I don't want to do. Which, but at the same time, is it that big a deal?
But that goes back to the point is how much stuff is actually a big deal anyway. You're like, listen, you have a roof over your head, bills are paid, food's on the table. That's it. After that,
who are you saying
there's a huge difference.
Who are you saying that to, though?
Everyone.
But that's not everyone. How many people can actually say that? You have a roof over your head, your bills are paid.
Oh yeah, no, that's the point, though.
Right.
But that's the thing is that's actually what's important. Yet we focus on everything else, right? Doesn't make any sense.
I think
we're missing
nothing matters, right?
Obviously,
literally, in 15,000 years, none of us are going to exist. Maybe they'll find a golden record of this podcast off on the way to Saturn or something. You know what I mean? But
it is a radio wave. It goes out into space.
Right? It'll get there somewhere. Right. I intend. We've had some deaths recently in our family. I think probably most everybody has because of COVID and stuff.
Right.
But my wife and I have talked about end of life stuff. You can go ahead and turn that shit to red.
I was gonna say I need to find the darkest color that I have because it's getting
darkest crimson possible, please.
The darkest,
this is
just deep.
Holy shit! Yeah, this is literal. This is quite literally old guy shit.
Jesus Christ, we're talking about the oldest guy's shit. I think dying is the oldest thing one can do.
End of life stuff. We're talking about how what we want to do with our bodies, and I was like, I got two options. One of them, I prefer to be shot into space and aimed at a planet that could potentially have life. So I want my biology to be the starting grounds for new life on a distant planet.
Oh, you want to be a seed on a different planet? That's okay. That's pretty wild.
Or bury me in a box, not embalmed, none of that chemicals in me, under a tree. And then
I think
that's what I would be.
But then as the tree grows, I want my body to kind of come out of the ground in it.
Now we're talking. That's the good stuff.
And then you can come visit Grandpa.
Hey, that's why I want to be embalmed. So when it does grow, look, I want to be embalmed so I won't get absorbed by the tree. So when I grow, I'm gonna come out of the tree and be stuck in there like fucking Han Solo.
Get taxidermied.
Oh yeah. No.
Has anyone ever taxidermied themselves?
Nothing says "I love you."
His name is Ed Gain.
Like having you suplexing a cooter as a coat rack just in your family's house.
I would get Kronos, where he's eating the babies and fighting Zeus. I would get a picture like that, but me with a lion and a gorilla just fighting it out. Yeah, sure.
Personally, I'd like to be a body pillow.
A literal
you can do that and sell that on Etsy. People buy that shit, eh?
Yeah, I'll even wear a schoolgirl outfit. I don't give a fuck. I'll wear a skirt and some stockings.
See, this is the thing,
dress me up how you want.
You don't have to dress up like anything. You just do yourself and be like, yeah, here, you want a fat guy pillow? This is it. I'll send you a copy. and people will buy it. I don't know why, but this, and I'm like, you know what?
That's a bold assumption.
The guy, there is a whole fucking thing. People are weird like that. And number one, I'm married. Fuck you, buddy. Okay. Hey, I've been approached a lot of times.
If my wife doesn't buy me as a body pillow, I don't know what the fuck I got married for in the first place.
Yeah. That's called love.
I mean, true though, but like that's accurate. Yeah.
Fair enough. We haven't even done a second question. This is going so well. I'm an adult. You can't stop me. What's something you do because you're a grown up and there's no parent to tell you no?
Well, have lots of kids. That's to start off.
Yeah,
with.
exactly. Bobby Oliver already did that on camera. So
yeah. Well, version 2. Here it is.
This is my answer.
Yeah.
Drugs.
Drugs.
Like, to be honest, like I had never touched the stuff. I had never, even when I turned 21, I was kind of adamantly against it. I got a whole past that's completely different than who I am right now. I was a pastor for 15 years.
Whoa.
A youth pastor, worship leader guy. I would play music and stuff. That's where like my performance kind of stuff kind of stemmed from. I was 16 and I started learning guitar while playing at the church. And so like I did that as a career, like legitimately like worked as a pastor for, churches and stuff. And left the church like a lot of people in 2016. But before that, I was working in sales and stuff, selling mortgages and whatnot. And I was realizing all these clients that I had to juggle. And my mom had told me that I was ADHD when I was in high school. And she had framed it in a way that was more like, you need to fix this. This is broken in you. Yeah. And I'm like, well, fuck that. I am not broken. There's nothing wrong with me, lady. And then I got to like, 33 or whatever. And I was like, oh shit, there might be something wrong with me. And it's not really wrong with me. It's a neurological thing, right? It's biological, neurological, and it's like hereditary. Like my dad has ADHD and probably his dad too, So I just kind of ignored it for the longest time. But then it finally came to pass that I had to like juggle all these clients. And I was like, I need to go to the doctor to see if I can figure something out. And I ended up getting Adderall, to help focus. And it was like putting glasses on for the first time. It was like everything was in focus. I was able to like concentrate tasks and not get distracted by every conversation happening or whatever. Yeah. And that kind of opened me up to like, well, if I was opposed to like this drug for so long, like what other drugs? Yeah. Because like I've probably been depressed since I was a teenager. You know what I mean? And so like anxiety and stuff too, but like we didn't really have those things like to label them because we couldn't label it, so we couldn't really address it. But now I'm like, okay, well, I got all these other feelings I got, and the Adderall kind of allowed me to focus on myself and like these things that I could fix and I needed to address or whatever. So like my anxiety, depression, I ended up smoking some weed for the first time ever when I was like 33, 34 to help with the Adderall crash, and realizing that just kind of mellowed me out, and I wasn't irritable from the Adderall. I wasn't like on edge, and I was like, well, this can help too. What else can help? I've drawn some like hard lines, and I also like read a lot about things before I try them. Like, for example, I've read a lot about weed, a lot about like, different studies and stuff, and, compared to like tobacco or compared to this or whatever else. And I'm just like, this shit works, man. And the most recent one has been, can I say psilocybin mushrooms? But mushrooms. Yeah. It's been like, I just recently in the last couple of years found how to get some and got some. And, it's really fucking changed my life. All the studies that I read about, I read multiple books on it. I read the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I read, there's studies and all this kind of stuff. First-hand experience of these doctors who've like been under the federal radar for the last 60 years, doing these experiments and stuff, and just changing the way that they think about things, and PTSD and addiction. And so I've been taking just a few grams every little while, and man, it has been a ride. But drugs has been a fantastic thing. Now, I'm not a big fan into like, things that are legitimately bad for your body, like heroin and even cocaine. I know some people do that, whatever, like meth. Yeah, fuck that. I mean, Adderall basically is meth, but it's as long as you're using doctor prescribed medication doses. But it is all experimentation. I think a lot of people don't think about drugs anymore, like in the actual literal. Well, like when I talked to my doctor about Adderall, he was like, well, here's 5 milligrams. how'd that feel after a month? Well, I don't know. It wasn't quite enough, maybe. All right, let's go up to 10, up to 20, up to 30. Oh, that was too much. Bring it down to 20, maybe 15. Like, that's experimentation. And I'm doing it with my doctor. I did the same thing with mushrooms. I did the same thing with marijuana. I just didn't do it with a doctor because obviously Adderall is a fucking really rough
Controlled
thing.
systems. Yeah.
Exactly. Which, I mean, so is weed on the list.
Yeah. I think
not up in Canada. I got it all.
The whole like dare generation, the concept of drugs, like if you do drugs with a capital D, like egg in the frying pan, you'll fucking die, all that stuff. And then we would try weed or whatever for the first time, and they're like, oh, I guess that didn't kill me. Wonder what else they were lying about, like you said.
Right. And then some kids like skin popping some black tar real quick. Just
Yeah.
God damn it, there's the next 20 of your life. 20 years of your life gone.
See, that's the thing though, is to like even a little bit of education and understanding that even smoking weed versus taking an edible, totally different experience, is going to affect you a
100%.
totally different way. And just because it affects you a specific way doesn't mean this is going to work the other way. Then then you're talking about different types of weed and all sorts of stuff, and you're going, this is a pharmacy in and of itself. And the fact is, like, I've literally watched people destroy their lives with alcohol, destroy relationships, destroy just themselves with alcohol. And you're going, you know what? How about smoking a couple joints? That guy never destroyed shit. If anything, it was hard to get him to do anything. Perfect. I'm like, I'd rather you be a burnout than an alcoholic, right? Like, just hands down. But that's the thing, is that was like, there's a few histories of alcohol that are incredible to watch, where you're going, oh, so it was just to stop people drank alcohol so we wouldn't die from poisoned water because we shit where we drank, and we're dumber than fucking monkeys. It's great. And then you realize you're going, oh, okay, so that explains a lot.
I was watching this YouTube video about like how Brazil went from becoming a colony to an empire and as big as it is. And there's a thing where like the crown prince was riding toward the capital, and he kept having to take stopping the convoy every few minutes because of diarrhea. Like, that's just part of the story. They're like, it's just what happens, because
rampant diarrhea.
Were each of those piles like a I claim
moderator to the queen. Also diarrhea. No, that's
that was the very
but the
first
fact that they
Reddit
felt
moderation.
the need to put that in the story means that must have been like epic diarrhea, right?
Well, that's the thing.
Probably
right?
was
like,
one of them. Yeah, a porcelain shatterer for sure.
Montezuma's Revenge. That you're like, dude, you've died of dysentery. Oh, sorry. Wah wah.
Again.
That's
think about this.
Talking about old guys shit.
Sorry, Caleb. I know, but this is it's.
You guys still got control of your bowels?
Was that Bill from King of the Hill? Was that the?
I don't know. That just came from inside me, man.
Oh, okay. All right.
But sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the last question, but Dino, if you want to say your thing first.
No, I was just going to say, it's funny that like I've said this on this podcast and a few others where I'm like, you know what? Good colon health is just good health. Just straight up, you know what? You can
just turn that right up to red, brother.
It's going to come up. The only reason it's not red right now is because I've also had some porcelain shatterers in the past 3 weeks. I can kind of relate right now.
Part of being a man.
This is cross-generational.
There's
cross-generational, and I'm concerned.
There's a cut part of an episode where like Caleb had to leave because of getting his shits.
Yeah,
he's
like that's a deleted scene.
That's real.
It's so good.
No, this is important. I think that this is something that gets, we're going to learn in the future that a lot of young people are going to like think about their bodies and stuff too. Because as a kid, I probably had the shits all the time because I was lactose intolerant, and I never I never did any. I never avoided cheese. I never avoided milk.
Yeah.
Like I just this year I was like, you know what? I should probably like not be painfully shitting every 3 to 4 hours.
68% of the world is lactose intolerant, believe it or not.
See, and that's why, like, there's that funny thing. Like, when I was in school, no one was allergic to peanut butter. Not one person. My entire
well,
public
they're just
school,
dropping like flies.
Well, no, we also committed acts of violence against each other, so that's fair.
Yeah.
You know,
Anyone
that was my
moderately,
we
yeah,
beat each other to death.
Generations, yeah.
But like that was the whole thing where you're going. You realize that, like by a certain age, you're going. Listen, if I start my day with a great shit where I'm like, like where it's just like not too smelly, a lot of relief, and then like a clean sweep afterward, you're going. Listen, my day is going to be great. Just period. You can't ruin that day.
Okay, now I need to see a musical where it starts off with your main character having just like a nice dump, and then going out and singing his "I Want" song, but it's just
and then we cut to like say another character who's having a not so good dump.
Yeah,
there's like a key
sweating.
change.
He's like, no, listen. The best.
Why would it come out of my ass in a solid chunk?
Listen,
I'm pissed that we're talking about poop and how bad it's been. And I literally have a fucking bag of Taco Bell right here.
Eat your Taco Bell. Who gives a shit? Well, you will later, but
I got Chipotle earlier, so.
Oh my gosh, everyone's just treating their bodies so poorly today.
Yeah, we are.
I just think I'm like, listen, there comes a time where you got to take your socks off because you went to the bathroom, and you're like, listen, it's gonna be an experience. Okay,
take your shirt off. That's when you know it's dead.
When you take your socks off, you're going, listen, everyone's defeated. Now it's just survival. Well, survival is what matters.
You got those where you're driving home and you're like, oh shit, and you start to need to unbuckling your pants a little bit because like you got to give yourself some relief. It doesn't help.
No.
Or like the thing where you start making like planning out how to get past furniture. Like, okay, I have to take the left route through the living room to the bathroom because otherwise I'm going to run into the dog. And
I'm shoving and tripping kids on the way. I'm just
I'm a balloon inside of my body, and I need to like get there now.
It's like this is happening whether I make it or not.
I gotta say, like all of us need to take our stomach health probably a little bit better if we're all having these very relatable stories.
It's just group therapy. I gotta eat some of that yogurt that Jamie Lee Curtis eats to make her poop better. Like, have you seen those commercials?
Absolutely.
Activia or whatever it was.
I trust Jamie Lee Curtis.
She's gorgeous
when it comes to shit.
She's gorgeous all the time, so that's fair. It's Greek yogurt. That
sounded like a dig at Jamie Lee Curtis.
I know.
The only thing I trust Jamie Lee Curtis with is shit. But and that has multiple definitions.
That's become a lot more important later on in life. That's fair. She can kill murderers and protect her family. I respect that woman. It's fair.
All right. Third question.
What do you mean I'm an adult?
First time you felt like a grown-up.
This is going to be kind of cliche, but I was young when I had kids. I was 23 when I had I was 23 when I got married. I was 24 when I had my first kid. She's 14 now. And so I've got 14, 12, 10, and 8, and my 10-year-old is my son. And I would say that holding my daughter for the first time really felt like, oh shit, I'm like going to be responsible now for like this person's like thank you so much for my wife, who's like way more responsible than me, especially at that time. So actually what happened was as soon as, it was my wife, Kimberly was resting in the bed and I was holding her, my daughter. And I was just kind of like, you just look at this like baby, you're like, it's so weird. It's so freaking weird that like, here's this like little person now. And then like the hospital's like, okay, here you go. Take them home. And you're like, what am I going to do? But then my mom came in, and my mom, we had talked before, parents. My mom had the approach, like she had said earlier about how, my wife had an epidural, and so it wasn't a real birth.
Oh, fuck off. That's stupid.
So just real quick too, when I told my my mom that I was going to propose to my wife now, I said, Mom, I'm going to get a ring because I'm going to propose to Kimberly. And she goes, oh, Nicholas, you're going to ruin that girl's life.
Your mom said that about you.
About me.
What the fuck? Way to be in your kid's corner.
Yeah.
Nick's mom.
But then she But then, after like a few minutes of like talking back, and the thing is, at the time, it didn't even really register. I was like, nah, come on, get out of here, And then it's like, and then eventually she like took me to go look for rings and stuff. But like looking back, I'm like, no, that was a legitimate like observation from her point of view. And part of me doesn't blame her because I was a fucking mess. But at the same time, like, Yeah, as a parent, that's not your. That should be your approach. What was? Oh,
yeah, that's fair.
so I felt like an adult when I held my daughter for the first time. I just needed to give that background for why I'm going to tell this story. Because then my mom came in, and I'm holding my daughter for the first time because Kimberly had been like nursing her, and then doctors handed her to me so she could get some rest. And I'm holding her and looking at her, and my mom walks in and she goes, "Nicholas, don't you think it's time somebody else hold her?" What? What are you talking about? This is my kid. Are you serious? Right? Like, I am just sitting down for the first fucking time holding this child, and she's like, "Well, when's it gonna be my turn?" And so, like, I was like, no, no, it's okay. I'm just gonna hold her for now, And she's like, "Oh." I didn't hear from her, having just had our first child, mind you. I didn't hear from her for a week.
What?
I didn't hear from her for a week after that.
That's next level petty. That's
dude, it's next level narcissism.
Yeah.
You're talking about anti-work. Y'all got to go to Raised by Narcissists.
Oh, I know that one.
On
That's
Reddit.
a fun one.
That one is a good time to go. I'm not that fucked up. Oh man, I'm pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
So I think that part of it was having the child. The other part of it was like essentially like drawing a hard line between myself and my mother, who was overstepping. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
which was
that's fair.
Weird as like in your early 20s to go, well, I'm this woman's child, but also she needs to stay in her goddamn lane.
Yeah.
And that has been the progression of my relationship with my parents, which has actually led to a fantastic relationship with my father. He's actually been very receptive to a lot of like the conversations we've had, like full on. We're sitting in this garage, like talking to each other for like 8 hours. I'm trying to like, you better get this shit, old man, or like, you ain't gonna be seeing these kids, motherfucker. You know what I mean? So, because like I care more about these kids and their well-being and them being like not assholes, and like you know what I mean, when they grow up. And I just want to avoid trauma for them, like as much. Like I don't care about. I'm not a helicopter parent. Like they hurt themselves, like they're playing in the back, like somebody throws a rock and somebody gets bopped in the head and they're bleeding and shit. Like, okay, that's not that big a deal. I don't want Uncle Creepy to come around. You know what I mean? Like I don't want that kind of shit. So I'm trying to be diligent with those kind of things. I'm thinking about their mental health because they're. I don't know if you guys know this, but like your brain development in a human being isn't fully there until you're like mid-20s. Yeah. Right? Like your frontal cortex is still developing. Your decision-making ability and your ability to control your emotions all up in there, right?
Oh, yeah, my bedroom still looks like a Toys R Us catalog. I get what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm not there yet.
We see the race car bed guy. Don't worry about it. We're all jealous.
That's literally unicorns as a curtain, okay?
Yeah.
This is another thing about being a fucking adult.
It's fine.
My wife and I, because this whole, like, we like cutesy things, we like fun, we want to have fun just as much as possible. All of the stuff in our house, we've realized, like, you know what? We can gear like we have an Instapot, which is just like a pressure cooker, right? Which you normally just send that light right up to red. But bro, it's an R2D2 Instapot. It's and then next to it, a Darth Vader cookie jar.
Nice.
They don't make other ones. That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like the thing is, like, why wouldn't you want to have fun with this shit, right? And so like these are the things that are important to us and our family. My kids' mental health, for them to get to their mid-20s without any major traumas so that they can not be assholes and be functional adults, because like, me and my wife are not.
But that's the thing, is recognizing what happens as a young adult. Like that's one of the things, like Caleb, we've had conversations before where I'm like, yeah, Caleb, you're way ahead of the curve. You're good. Don't like, you're like, it's a fucking mess going through your 20s.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter. You could be rich, poor, smart, stupid, doesn't make a difference. Productive, not productive. Your 20s are a mess. That's how you figure it out. But the fact is, no one knows what the right path is because it's all the same. Like, listen, the fact is, like, one of the things I tell people, I'm like, if your feet are still growing, which happens until you're like 23, you're like, yeah, you think the more complex thing, your brain is done, guy, it's still got a ways to go. And the fact is, even now, like I'm learning is that, like I take edibles about every day. Probably, most days I'll take edibles, right? But I'm laying new pathways in regards to how I deal with situations and how I do things, right? Because as I said before, despite what Atlas thinks, I'm trying to be like, listen, I don't have to be an asshole. I can be, but I don't have to be. That's a choice I can make, right? And it's the same thing where you're like, when you figure out that you're going, well, what's more important to me? Some dickhead who said something, or you know what, my happiness. Well, I'm not going to let that asshole take my happiness away. So fuck it. I don't care. Oh, you're funny? Good for you. Here, there's a heart for you. Go fuck yourself. I don't care.
I think the hardest part about that, though, too, is like so many people have no idea what makes them happy.
Yeah.
I think so many people are coping, and like their coping mechanisms make them feel not like they're sitting
Not
in the middle of
sad.
chaos.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think a lot of people.
It's worse.
Yeah,
Like-
they don't know what's going on. They don't know what even brings them happiness.
It's like, so I play trading card games, and there's a difference between,
Is that Magic the Gathering?
it's a Vanguard.
Much worse.
Yeah.
Oh,
But there's a difference between not losing and winning, and there's a difference between making yourself happy and making yourself not sad.
right. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like
Definitely.
running on a treadmill versus getting off the treadmill. But
I love how you bring up cards, boom, right to red.
Kicking it up.
He's like, oh, no, it was about happiness. Okay, I'll bring it back down. Bring it back
Hey,
down.
that
Caleb is a
digital-
human mood ring. I love
That
it.
digital Pokemon that you guys are walking around this neighborhood with started as a fucking card game, man.
Motherfucker. Yeah.
I love
No,
that
but-
I grew up before card games became really, really popular. Like, there was Magic, and then that was it.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Like,
Early
even that was
Magic,
just
yeah.
starting. So I'm like, oh, I didn't have to live that. People, my wife is Asian, and she'll bring up Pokemon. I'm like, I have no idea what any those I know are words. No idea what the context is. So I'm good. Thanks. No,
I just got my old Magic the Gathering cards from my mom for my son.
Yeah.
You know, I went into the room though, and like there were a couple on the floor, and I'm like, I'm gonna get these.
Put them in sleeves and
Fuck
shit.
your problem is, man. I'm gonna put you.
Did there have
I
to
got
be a
you
Black
sleeves,
Lotus in
dude.
there? Because Black Lotus is like one of the most expensive like trading cards of anything ever.
What do you think that maybe I have one of those?
Maybe like if it was way back in
Well,
the day.
here I have. So I think so. My mom got me a Ziploc bag, and she was like, "Here, these are your cards, right?" And I'm like, it seems a little light, to be honest. And I have an older brother and younger sister, both of which narcissists. But I would not put it past my brother coming to my mom's house at any point between like high school and now, even now that he's like 41 or 42 or whatever, and being like, oh, those are Magic Gathering cards, and knowing that there are some like collector's type things in there, and looking through and finding the most expensive ones.
My brother
And like
did that
just
with my
taking them.
comics.
I have no question at all that is a possibility. I don't know if that happened, but it seems like I have less cards. Once I put these, you know what? I'm a little bitter about this, and I didn't realize it.
We realized real quick.
I'm gonna break down those cards into individual playable decks because I know the guy that gave those to me in high school gave me individual playable. Okay, that's fine.
This is a sympathy
It
one.
also
This is a
ra-
sympathy one. This is for you. This is for you.
This rage is seriously because once I do and realize that they aren't playable because there's not enough cards, I will fucking rage. I'm not going to do anything about it because I'm no contact with my brother, so I don't even want to talk to him. But still, my raging at this point is I'll probably just like take some mushrooms and think about it.
It's funny that like you know like how your family affects you. Like I'm epileptic, and I did over the summer a seizure study.
And are you saying you don't know how your family affects you?
Well, I'm getting to that. So, it's the thing where they put the nodes on your head and then measure your brain waves.
We have pictures.
By the way, while you're doing strobe lights in your room, let's talk about my epilepsy.
It's not that kind of epilepsy. You're fine.
Yeah, we were when Atlas brought it up at a comedy show, all of us literally grabbed flashlights and just started. Just going, let's see it happen, there, guy. Come on. Yeah, he's like, it doesn't work that way. We're like, damn it.
Dino, you know, as revenge, you have to adopt me, and I have to come live with you, right? That's the.
You're not getting my free health care, sonny boy.
Damn it. Anyway, so I realized while I was in the hospital when my mom came to visit me that like she stresses me out on like a molecular level.
Yeah.
Like she came in the room and the things all started going crazy, and I was like, "Oh fuck, damn!"
Oh, so what I said was not a joke.
Kind of no, because like I realized that my mom makes me feel like that by virtue of her presence. I'm like, oh, I guess I should like hang out with her less, and so it's turned into this thing where I'm trying to kind of keep her at a distance because she hasn't done anything wrong, but it's just kind of.
But this is the thing, right? Like it's family. like, look, I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I would die for any one of my siblings. Do I like them? Not particularly, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's my blood responsibility that I would die for them because of that family. And I'm like, I have cousins and stuff that I care for. Some I don't. But the ones who have treated me like family, I in turn would die for them like family. Do I like them? Not all of them. No.
I think that you just hit on that right there. It's like the ones who treat you like family. Like I'm in the place where people where it's like I am now just kind of building my version of whatever family is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like like my blood relatives have all been, you know, like anti-vaxxers, far right wing, you know, kind of bullshit, you know, just anti-science, like, and in general, just like not really nice people. Like they'll be mean to each other, and like they're not healthy. They're not taking their health seriously, mentally or otherwise. You know what I mean? And it's just all these things. I'm just like, do I get a net positive benefit from the people that I spend this time with? And if I do, I know it's a little selfish way of thinking, but at the same time, you have to think about these things if you want to function. So I'm just like, how do these people make me feel? And that's why I try and tell my kids, I'm like, how do your friends make you feel? If they're teasing you, but you're not laughing, that's shitty. I avoid that shit now.
Yeah.
But you realize as you get older that that's a decision. You've chosen to be a garbage person that picks on people or bullies people or talks down to people, treats people at a restaurant bad, treats people at a retail store bad. That's a choice you've made. That's nothing else. And you know what? Like anyone who's like, well, they should know. No, you're the problem. Sorry, sir. Get the fuck out. And that's the problem is you realize that and you're going, oh, wait, that's not who I want to be. That's not who I want to be. I want to treat people like a human being and be treated like a human being. That's all. You know,
I return like for like. That's how I think about it. You know, if
I don't think that's as unreasonable as people think, though.
Like I have no problem like exchanging harsh words with someone if they're gonna come at me all harsh. Like somebody's like call me an idiot. I'm like, well, fuck you, baby. We're gonna like light this fire, baby. Let's like break it down. I'll tell you all the reasons why you're an idiot.
Your response isn't like a righteous indignation and anger. It's almost like a wrestler, like, well, fuck you, down at the Astrodome this Sunday. Fuck
I want fireworks behind me and like, like suck it, bitch, it's ready to fucking rumble.
Yeah. Nik Nieblas gonna make heads roll this weekend.
Well, because it's the ADHD too. It's like so ADHD basically says whatever's most stimulating, that's what gets the attention, right? So like just to explain how, like I know a lot of people think, does anybody here have ADHD? You don't know?
I don't think so. I'm vaguely certain that I'm on the spectrum, maybe, but I'm not entirely sure.
Same.
I just think I'm being held back from murderous rage in general. Not necessarily if it's a medical thing or just, you know, I was destined to be a warlord, something like that.
Dino's got his own Jiminy Cricket that's tied up in the basement somewhere. He doesn't let that shit roll him.
4 of them, they all tried, they all failed. Now I make kebab.
Like a lot of people look at ADHD and they're like, well, I get distracted too, or like I have a hard time focusing. And it's like, I get that, but that's only like one aspect of it, right? There's like all this other stuff to it. It's legitimately neurological. And there's like, to give an example, like we just came back from a trip and we were walking to the car. And I was like, oh, wait, where's the keys? I need to know where the keys are. And it was like a little bit of a walk, right? So I'm just like thinking about the keys the whole time. But like, I knew my wife had them, but I didn't have them on me. But it was like, because I had that thought, I like couldn't let it go because it was the most panic stricken thought that existed in my vicinity. You know what I mean? And it's like, so the same thing happens like, oh, there's a loud sound. It's like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? It's like, it really is that, but it's like almost emotional. You know, and so it's I don't know why I even got on that tangent, but why was I talking about ADHD? This is another aspect of it.
That was so fucking perfect.
Like having fucking like, I'm not planning this shit, guys. I'm serious. Like I need somebody in my life to be like, you were actually talking about this because this reminded you of thought about this. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna. But we were talking about something, and now I got off track.
That's all right. That happens all the time. I'll tell you this much. The whole time you're talking about ADHD, I see Caleb is going, I think we should just continue talking about it because you know what? Like, I feel that the mind is a anomaly, if anything, because we can't really understand how it works, right? Why do you have ADHD and I don't? Right? Why are those things? How do those things? And that's where, like, you realize in time. And this is the one thing, like, I find that when I smoke a joint, I'm like, I get high as balls. Sometimes it's fun. You know, no, it's always fun. But, you know, sometimes it's beneficial fun, and sometimes it's just a good time, right? Whereas edibles, I find that I can more regulate my mood in how I want to learn things and how I want to interact with things, right? Whereas, like, listen, I can respond with anger. And trust me, I'm 6'2" and 370 pounds. I'll rip your arms off and beat you to death with them. No problem. But do I want to be that ogre? No. I want to be a human being. I don't want people to chase me with pitchforks and torches. It's that, and it's a weird thing, right? And that's the hard part about dealing with it is when you ultimately realize you're going, wait, I can work with what I have with the more knowledge I get and the more understanding, the more, and then
I think once we realize that we are essentially like biologically, evolutionarily the same as our hunter-gatherer ancestors, like 6,000, 10,000 years ago, our brains structurally and essentially like almost like if you put them in, it's like Encino Man. If you put them in this environment, give them a cell phone, like they would be able to figure out because they have the brains to be able to, they don't have the background knowledge, but their brains could do it. You know what I mean?
So it doesn't matter how smart Brendan Fraser is, he's gonna lay pipe wherever it is. He's laying pipe.
But like, so I think about that like when it's like all of these things, all of these feelings that we have, like the ADHD. Even I think that there's an evolutionary reason why even ADHD hasn't been like, taken out of the gene pool because there is some benefit to this. Like it's very much for me a double-edged sword. Like I have a film that I'm in pre-production right now. It's all behind me or whatever. But like this is, I think, one of the benefits of ADHD and the creativity, or like thinking around corners or thinking about things in different ways. It is like I said, double-edged sword. It's hurting me in some ways, but if you can get it under control and understand the animal aspect of like controlling your evolutionary impulses, then that's where like the civilization comes in, right?
Okay, so this is my thought process, and I'd actually like to hear from Caleb and Atlas on this specific topic. Is for myself, like I know that any conversation I have, I've already had it in my head a million times. Like my mind will automatically do that for certain subjects. Okay, how do I analyze that? How do I respond to that? And I go. But even comes down to performing and hand gestures and how I do things and what process that is, right? And to a degree, I believe that is a form of compulsion and or obsessiveness. But I don't know. Like that's the weird thing is that now everything has a name, and I'm like, I don't know what the name was before. How am I gonna know what it is now? And people are like, well, maybe it's this. I'm like, what is that? I don't know these words, right? So, but that's like part of the thing where you're going, but that's being steered toward an area where that mindset or that skill set of how your brain processes things makes sense that you should be steered in that direction. Like we are just now hitting on that idea of, hey, you know what? If somebody can go through that stuff, then they should be in that situation. Like someone who's good with numbers, or like people who are. When I was young, they would call them like a mathematical savant. Like they could just do that.
There are people who like shovel shit and enjoy it.
Yeah,
I'm not built that way, but like. And I don't even look down on those people. I think those people are fucking heroes that they're willing to do that when the rest of us are like, that is insane.
Yeah. But that's like, that's a level of satisfaction out of life though, right? Like
I can't even tell what the question is at this point.
Well, no, I'm just thinking like being somebody with ADHD, how do you find that is like when someone asks you to do something, like, can you anticipate and say, oh, that's not going to go well? Like, immediately, I don't want to do that because it's going to get fucking retarded, right?
For me personally, I have preparations for those kinds of things. Like marijuana helps a whole lot. The Adderall helps. I take 2 days off a week from the Adderall. They recommend 1 or 2 days off. Okay. But like I have all of these preparations and coping mechanisms, and my wife is like my wife and I are codependent in the best ways. Like we both come from fairly traumatic childhoods in different ways that have allowed us to be these little broken pieces that fit very nicely together. We've been married for 15 years. I love her more now than I did in the beginning, and it's just we are grown more and more like together, And so I think that I don't even remember where I was going with that.
But it's the idea of figuring out where
how you anticipate mechanisms. So like I could tell my wife, for example, like if we're going somewhere where I know I'm going to feel like anxiety, or even like I'm like, this is going to be boring as fuck, and my ADHD is going to be like wanting to be on my phone or like whatever else, and my wife is going to be annoyed if I'm on the phone because I'm not paying attention to the thing. Everybody's paying attention. I'm like, okay, I need to be out of there in like an hour, if it's like a party or something, and just because like this is not for me right now. And I know that, and I can feel that, So I think it's about self-awareness more than anything, because even if you don't know the labels to things or whatever else, I think if you know how you feel, and if you know how to either, deal with it, that's the thing. You're right. You have to not numb it, but you have to feel the feeling and then work through it and be able to cope with it in a healthy way. Right. So that's why I tell my wife, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about this. And then she can help me. Figure that out if I'm having a hard time.
Yeah.
Support systems.
Yeah. I mean, my girlfriend and I have, like, if we're at like a public gathering and one of us wants to leave, we have like a double hand squeeze. Is like, we gotta get out of here. We're like, I'm bored, or I'm over this, or whatever. Like, that's the okay. Let's go.
Somebody just squeezed my butt and I didn't like it. Yeah,
yeah, or something. And it was my butt because I have a bodacious badonkadonk. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned the thing about the phone, Nick. I'll get to that in a second. Caleb, what was your answer first?
Okay, so just to clarify, what is it that I'm responding to?
Really? I didn't know either.
So I think the general consensus, or the topic we were kind of talking about, was that people are kind of built differently.
Yeah.
And then you kind of need to be aware of those, like,
so my whole life, like, for as long as I can remember, I've been pretty reclusive. Except for when it's like socially advantageous to not be. Like, I've kind of developed like humor and like social skills is almost sort of like a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Because like for as long as I can remember, even like like way back in like, like second, third grade, like I remember like realizing that like if I'm gonna be like safe in these social environments, that I have to learn how to like talk to people well. And like how to be like an agreeable person. So I've kind of used that as like a defense mechanism, but like I've always been like kind of the isolating type, and I prefer things that let me just kind of like be on my own. Like that's what kind of like why I've taken to like music production and stuff, because like I literally just sit in this room for like hours and hours, and I can just be creative and like work on my own, and I don't have to talk to anybody else. And I guess it's also kind of why I've taken a step back from stand up, because I started realizing like in doing stand up, like all of the different like social facets of performing comedy and like being around comics and things like that, just I don't know, it started getting like really difficult for me, and it made my anxiety like way worse than it's ever been in my entire life. Like I recently started taking like antidepressant and anxiety medication like a month ago. And it's been kind of helping me out, and that's another reason why I've kind of had like a weird relationship with weed too, because like with weed, like when I smoke, like it activates a lot of parts of my brain that I think kind of get suppressed normally, like as far as like creatively speaking. Yep. Like when I smoke, like I feel like I can just kind of like get in like to this creative zone, and I can get into this flow state a lot easier. But it's almost like gotten a little bit scary for me, because I've used it so much that like when I don't smoke, it feels like it's kind of suppressed again. So I don't like, it almost feels like I get scared that like I'm becoming like dependent on it or something to activate certain parts of my brain.
Try edibles. I felt the same way. I honestly felt the same. Like, listen, I smoked weed in high school because I was cool, but I never smoked again until probably about 5 years ago. No, less. Like 3 years ago. Yeah, probably 3 years ago. And like, I tried other stuff for way too long that I'm happy to admit. But now I'm like, yeah, I just do that. And I'm like, I don't really drink. I don't really do anything like that. But that's like, I totally see what you're talking about with regards to smoking the weed. And you're going, yeah, try edibles. It's a very different effect on your mentality. Like sometimes you still get high and you're just like, hey, I don't give a shit, which is nice. But, it works the same way. Sorry.
I like the idea of like using edibles or weed, like in the sense of like, being specific about how you're using it and why you're using it. And like it all, I think, goes back to like self-awareness and whatnot, because if you find like a consistent edible, I always find like really consistent gummies, and then you can be like, I'm cutting this is going to be like 2.5 milligrams. I'm not even going to feel it, but it's going to kind of like even me out. Or I'm going to take like 5, or I'm going to take 10, I'm going to take whatever you're going to take. You can then experiment, be like, I know how I'm going to feel at this level. And so you can be like, I want to be fucked up, so I'm going to take this much. Or I want to just, I got anxiety, I got this, whatever. I need to chill out. I'm going to take this much. So I like that you're just aware that you're like, okay, I feel this. I need to take this, or I'm going to take this for this today.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of, sorry, you can go at it. Okay. All right. I'll go. It's it's been difficult because like I said, like it's really helped with a lot of the creative stuff. And I'm working on like these music projects, and every time like I smoke, like I said, I can get into that flow state. But my thing is like, okay, but why can't I have this like without it? Because it kind of feels like when I don't smoke, it's a lot harder for me to get into that headspace, or like I get distracted a lot easier, or I can't like the ideas just don't come. And so it almost feels like it's like if I don't have this, am I just not creative? Like I don't understand where this is. Yeah,
still you. It's still you. And you know what? It's a totally reasonable, logical thought process you're having. It's totally reasonable. You got to understand that your I've always found this is that your thought process, your logical path for things have a way of doing things. You know how like in the idea is as you're developing as a person, which you still are, right? Like don't think you're not, is that there are certain pathways that are developed that are consistently used. Think about it the same way like a road system in your mind. Obviously it's ultra more complex and there's it's not the best example, but it works. You have highways, you have roadways, there's always access. It's a question of how often it's used, how regular it's used, how much traffic is it moving, right? And if it's only being accessed, like think about it, is an exit that's only temporarily open during this specific time. So what you want to do is do something different. Like I've always found that smoking weed, number one, hits you like that, but also you kind of get what you get, and that's what happens. Why? Because next time it's not going to be the same weed because you got it from a different guy, or maybe you put a little too much in the grinder, and there's all sorts of different variables. That's why gummies is like, boom, I know that in 3 hours, I'm going to have to take a second gummy, and then after 2 hours from there, I'm hitting peak where I'm like, I'm good, no problem. Yeah. And now I've created a cycle where it's like, it's almost like I did construction on the ramp, so now the ramp is open all the time, but it's got some potholes still. Like I'm still working it out and figuring it out. That's why I'm afraid to microdose mushrooms, because I'm like, I don't like the idea of not being in control of my surroundings and not being aware of what's happening. And that can be an issue. It hasn't been an issue. I've tried it a couple times, but I don't trust it for the simple fact that I'm bigger than everyone in my household. And realistically, if the cops come, I'm getting shot in the face, right? Even in Canada, that's going to happen, right? Like, I don't get friendly talked to. I get, boom, shotgun to the face, fat boy.
RCMP don't play.
No, horse right to the face,
Yeah.
So,
Mounties don't fuck around. That's the
let me know if this is too personal a question, but I like to get into it. How many people here are in therapy?
I was drastically so I lost my dad. Yeah. So I did it like intensely for a couple of years. And then now instead I use meditation with the same process, the same properties to work through those things. I didn't do it well in the beginning, but now I've mastered that process and I'm just doing it on my own. So am I in therapy? Yes, not with somebody else, because let's be honest, I'm a pain in the ass. It's not.
I would say that I understand that, and I think that that's fantastic. Although you should definitely get a therapist. I'm just saying, like everybody,
just fucking money, man.
Look, you got fucking social life. What the fuck
for psychologists, dude, it was $250 an hour for the guy I saw, but he was top tier, and he was like, "Listen, the difference was this guy that helped me was because my brain works very." Like I get statistics, like you can show me a graph and I understand what that, like, I don't need more information. I can see it. Like you show me numbers and statistics and I get it. I see the trends. That's just how so a logical process of A plus B equals C every single time you follow these steps and you can answer your questions. And it's like, it actually works.
But how does that thought process work in a chaotic and meaningless world?
I choose my own chaos.
I mean,
there's
what I read a book recently.
Yes.
I read it. I'm sorry, Alice. I talked over you. Would you?
I know. I just said there's the episode title.
Right.
Chaos. That's perfect. Yeah.
No, but look, I am adult enough to say I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I just read this book recently that is called Denial of Death by Ernest Becker. It was written in like the 70s or whatever, and talk about all these like psychological approaches to death and like humanity and why we even fear death. And like the basic crux of the book is essentially that we are animals, we're mammals that who have come to realize our own mortality. Like if our dogs knew that any moment we would be able to put them down, they would never move. But we are mammals too, but we have created all these
Transcended.
concepts. We have transcended our animalistic stuff, but the animal in us still fears that death because it's the unknown. It's this thing that like we can't put a face on or whatever, right? And so what we've done is we've come up with these universal mythologies, these personal mythologies for ourselves, in order to transcend death, right? And so like there's Christianity, there's folks who are like vegan even, who feel like by my not killing animals with my consumption, I am adding to the good of the world, and therefore my it's all of these heroic myths. That's the word.
Yes.
Heroic myths that people tell themselves in order to feel as though they are never going to die.
Right.
You know what I mean?
100%. It's I'll be remembered because I was great at this one thing. Okay.
Exactly. And I think like a lot of people, like I was very turned off towards therapy in the very beginning. I read a lot of self-help books, and I was like I was looking like transcendent meditation and all that kind of stuff. And I love all of that. And I very much still read and try and meditate and whatever else. And I hope that I'm still asked back on the podcast after I, lambast your views. But I seriously, strongly suggest finding a therapist that you can trust and just talk to, because there is something about having a third party who has no social obligation to you, who legally cannot share anything that you say in the conversation unless it's like harming yourself or somebody else. Like I told my therapist that I was on mushrooms. Hey man, I just took some mushrooms right before this session started, so I might get a little trippy about 35 minutes in. And so like the thing is, like, he can't, he's just like somebody whose sole purpose is to see you be better, like to be the best person. And
cathartic AF.
And I know that you can handle it your own. And I think that there's tons that comes from it. I would just say the last anecdote here is like the last time I took mushrooms, for example, I was kind of annoyed with my therapist. I was actually thinking about getting a different one, because I was just like, I told this dude, I just understood all this stuff about my ADHD. I read this book and I was like, you know what, motherfucker? I need some structure. I need some organization. I need to get all this stuff in my life so that I am not like at the victim to my neurological disorder. Like this shit I realized is an actual learning disability. Like it'd be like compared to like somebody who has dyslexia or something like that. And so I'm just like, I need to get this shit in order. So, help me out. I need some structures. And he's like, I think you need to value yourself.
Oh my
God.
And
I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Help me.
Like,
do you fucking hear yourself?
He's not wrong, but that's not the help we're looking for. Like
fast forward 2 weeks.
All right.
I took mushrooms. Now it could have been months before I had this kind of breakthrough, but I'm on mushrooms. I'm had a really just great night. Feeling good. It
good
gets
dump.
towards the end of my trip, and I'm just like, I'm texting people that I know will wake up in the morning. I'm not gonna like wake them up in the middle of the night, and just like throwing love bombs at people. Like, hey man, I love you. You're a badass. I know, like, men aren't supposed to like show intimacy, but I just want to let you know I fucking love you. And and like, and my buddy, he's just recently, bought a business, and I'm like, dude, I'm so fucking proud of you. Like, oh gosh, I can't believe he's doing so much. He's fucking doing it, man. And like the mushrooms around and turned me and like, yeah, you proud of yourself though? And I was like, what the? What? What the fuck did you just say to me?
And you are my friend. What the fuck? Yeah.
And
fair.
Tears. And my wife was asleep next to me, and I was like, like just a sobbing fucking mess. And dude, I just like I have therapy, I think, next week, and I'm gonna go to him, and I was like, "You son of a bitch! You just see what I need emotionally, huh? You fuck!
You're good at your job, you son of a
piece of shit!
You want a gold star?
Maybe you want some cookies? Some cookies? Figure out my childhood trauma, you bitch!
Yeah.
Oh god damn it! So
this is the funny thing, Nick, and I love hearing that from somebody where it's like I hear about how people interact, and I'm like, how the fuck are you thinking that that's okay to do to people? And I'm like, this is why, like, I love being like a Euro trash version of Shrek. Like I'm just a gigantic and white guy. But like I'm like, you can't, like I've had people go, oh, you're gonna, I'm like, I just look at them in the face and go, I'm gonna what? Nothing. You shut your mouth or I'll eat you. And people just go, oh, sorry, man. This just be cool. I'm like, shut your mouth, right? That's an advantage I've had since I was 16, 15, right? I'm like, not being able to stand up for yourself. Like, I'm like, how did you just let people talk to you like that? Are you what? And I just kind of stand going, yeah, people are having some really different experiences, and I'm there for it. I'm like,
what is that comment in reference to?
Guys, let's keep this rolling, but I got to pee so bad. It's been like 30 minutes.
Who's here? Go.
Shit.
Yeah, no, just everything. Like everything. Like someone. Oh, hearing how disrespectful women are treated at higher echelons of certain things. I'm like, really? I'm like, oh, they should bring back violence. Like that, I would just smack a fucking. If somebody called into question I'm good at my job, and you're gonna call into question how good I am at my job to my face, yeah, I'm gonna punch you in the mouth, guy. That's what I'm gonna fucking do.
I mean, that's a healthy response.
Wait.
What do you mean, Gary?
Do you think that's
fun.
a healthy? Do you think that's a healthy response?
No, but what I don't understand is that why do people think they can disrespect each other so much? Like that's.
Well, I mean, yeah, entitlement and like all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, I return like for like. So if somebody wants to get aggressive with, I've like literally never been in a fist fight, but I'm 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. Like if somebody wants to fight me, I'm pretty sure I could slap them a bit,
Yeah.
But I've never had the experience because I'm not getting aggressive with anybody, right? But I will return like for like. If somebody get into a screaming match with me, I'm going to try and de-escalate. But it's like first I'm going to try and protect myself.
Sure.
But I don't get the sense of like I used to get more aggro with people,
Yeah.
and I realized that it was doing more harm to myself than anything.
Yeah, it's not worth the like. When I want to get angry about something, usually I'll like, okay, give it one more second, and if you're still angry about it, then act. If not, it's probably not worth it.
So there's a difference in responding in anger and making sure people understand that they've overstepped their bounds.
Oh, agreed.
Right?
Totally.
So this is what I've mastered is someone will say something and I go, I'm sorry, what? And people go, I'm like,
well, what are these interactions
no.
that you're having? How are you running into a lot of people who are pushing all of these buttons on you?
Yeah, well, because he's Dino. His buttons are this big and all of us probably.
You know that meme where it's got the two buttons and the guy sweating? That's my life. Yeah. It's just those big buttons. It's just it's. Yeah, I don't know.
You're basically the warden from the movie Hulk.
Something that somebody's saying to you? Yeah. Like it's like this jackass telling you to get therapy. Is that like that's not causing this reaction?
No, absolutely not.
What are these reactions that's happening in?
I remember. So I used to be a financial planner, and that was
money makes people crazy. Definitely,
very crazy. Yeah. So I had clients saying, "Oh, well, you just haven't done your job," and I said, "I'm sorry, excuse me."
Right?
Is that? Yeah. I'm like, oh, and the best was I had a doctor who tried to pay all holier than thou kind of, oh, do you know who I am? And I said, hey, I can appreciate
Why did you forget?
Huh? Well, no, he was very, very thinking he could talk down to me. And I said, listen, I'm not sure what your comfort is, but my comfort has been surpassed here. And for that reason, I encourage you to find another advisor to deal with your finances. Yeah. And his wife went, what? And I go, no, I'm not. I don't work for you.
No, that's perfect. To me, that's not aggressive at all. That's direct, and I think that's perfect. I think that's great. So, I think you came across. You said, "I'll punch him in the face." Like, do you mean literally?
Oh, in my head, I will, and that's me saying, no, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Now, so this is the thing. What happens is someone says, "Well, no, you can't do that," and I stand up. I go, I can't do what in my office?
So you want to use the physical?
Yeah. And I'm like, what? I will. Yeah, I'm like, what is it you think that you can say that I will do now? And I'll ask somebody, I'm like, I want to know. And the best part was the guy's wife was like, oh, this is the best moment of my life because she knew he was an asshole. And I'm like,
put in place.
Yeah, and I'm like, no.
It's one of those things where like you don't want to deal with it yourself, but you're kind of hoping somebody gives them a smack.
Yes, and I'm that guy. Yeah. I'm definitely that
I
guy.
think that I think that people of stature should use that to better the world in those ways and tell those assholes.
You can't defeat me. I know, but he can.
Well, yeah, like I've told guys, I'm like, hey, can you stop touching this girl? Like she's drunk, man. Let's just let's be cool.
Yeah. I think all dudes have that duty at this point, especially.
Yes.
All
right. Well, Nick, thank you so much for coming on Generation Dan.
We're done.
We're done. It's
some bullshit, guys. I was ready to go for like 3-4 hours.
I could have gone for like 6 hours, dude. Sorry, guys. Here's the deal.
It would take too long to download. What?
I want to say this publicly. Nick, you're my favorite guest that we've ever had, and I want you back.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I want you back. Yeah. I want to talk to you in private. I want to build a friendship and a relationship with you. I mean, this is what a beautiful moment. I feel.
Nick,
that
you and I both live in LA, right? We should just hang out.
Yeah, I'm in the Inland Empire, so I'm like Southern California. But I got no problem driving to LA, but people in LA always have a problem driving. It's 45 minutes outside of LA.
I went to college at UC Riverside. Like I'm okay with
it. Yeah. Caleb, ditto.
Yeah. Before we
fuck the Canadian. Thanks a lot, guys. That's nice.
No, Dino, you didn't say any of those sentiments, you son of a bitch. You too as well. I'd love to have a Tim Hortons with you.
Oh my God.
I can make that happen.
There's going to be one more question for Nick after we do this. First, where can people find you and follow you?
Follow me on Instagram or Twitter right now. Nik Nieblas, Niknieblas. I just say stupid shit sometimes, and if I have any projects coming up, that's where you'll see them. I'm currently in pre-production for a short film that we're shooting at the end of this month. So
awesome.
Thank you.
You can find the show at Generation Dan on Twitter. And you can find me at Atlas Novak, Twitter, Instagram, or follow my other show at Nexus at Night in those same places. And yeah, that's it. How about Dino?
I'm Dino the Genetic Marvel. Go to Dino the Genetic Marvel. I have a Facebook page. I'm actually going to start running my own YouTube channel again. That as well.
Awesome.
Clips of this kind of stuff because I haven't loaded anything on for years. So I'm like, might as well start doing that. But yeah, Dino the Genetic Marvel on Facebook, which is apparently dying, but just the stock. Suck it.
I mean, you put up highlights of our shows too, like little minute.
Yeah, on Instagram, I've been putting up reels and also shorts on the YouTube channel. So check those out. And I make all these weird little graphics and stuff, and give everything a funny name. It's great.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's me.
All right, Mr. Mood Ring.
Well, aside from casting moods all over the digital space with my friends, I am on Twitter at Caleb C. McDuff. It's pretty inactive right now, but I also make music, and I'm working on an EP right now. When will it be done? I don't know, but it will be at some point, and I will release it on there, as well as my music account, which I will be putting out soon. So follow me there for updates on that.
Cool. Awesome. And then finally, our last question for Mr. Nieblas.
Oh.
What is the most memorable set you've had as a comedian? Good, bad,
or
weird,
pastor. Or pastor.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Are you sitting in chairs backwards and being like, all right, kids, we're going to rap about Jesus. Or,
I brought a guitar. Let's have some time. Yeah.
Damn. Okay. Most memorable set isn't that memorable. It was just like this bar at the bottom of another bar that was this secondary space. I was like, I did a set at the top bar that I was like, oh, this is great. But then I was like, they got this other club. Let me go do that one. And it was just one person in the middle of the room, and then everybody at the bar, with their backs to me, just drinking beers and stuff. And I was like, okay, whatever. But it was fun. My jokes were legit. I was funny as hell. But for the pastoring, we could talk about the time that a girl climbed up a tree in the middle of summer camp and then 50 feet up, threatened to jump, but her parents had dropped her off at summer camp and then went to Cancun. So we couldn't talk to them. There's the other time where when I first started playing guitar in church and I got to play on big church, big service or whatever, with the adults instead of just the youth group. And I was playing guitar and I was like, this is so fucking cool. And, lights and whatever else. And then older parishioner came up to me afterwards. And he was like, hey, were you playing guitar up there? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I think you're out of tune. And he walked away.
Whoa! God damn. How old were
there's
you
the other
at
time.
the time?
Savage. That is.
I was like 16.
Oh,
Like,
that hurts.
yeah, totally. There's the other time where I was in a church board, church meeting with like all of the elders and leaders and the senior pastor and all them. It was like 20 of them, and we were all planning and stuff, and they were doing all these like testimonial videos. And there was this one woman who had cancer, and they were like, "Yeah, she's terminal. She's gonna die in like 2 or 3 months." And then one of the pastors goes, "Well, better get it quick."
Like he's not wrong, but
He's not wrong, but also fuck that guy.
Yeah, like a lot.
This was also like very close to when there's a lot of reasons why I left the church, guys. This is very close to when right after we went to a conference where one of the pastors, a very notable pastor named Mark Driscoll, said to hundreds of pastors in a room that yes, we should put like God first, but also if your church work gets in the way of your family and your children, then that's not okay. And fucking pastors were livid. We got back to like had staff meeting, and they circulated a memo that was like, actually, this is how you can manage your life. They gave us 8 hours total, like 8 to 9 hours total. They literally wrote out like, this is how you could do all of your daily stuff, all of your Bible, all of your pastoral duties and everything. They give us like 8 to 10 hours for brushing your teeth, getting in bed, waking up, eating meals.
You shouldn't even need 8 hours. You shouldn't even need 8 hours. It'll be faster than
Well, the Holy Spirit's leading.
And that's how you became anti-work. That's like your superhero origin story for radicalization.
Yeah, I became anti-work. I became anti-work because I learned about anarchism. Like I was like, I was basically like a liberal when I was at the church, and then I left the church, and I was like, I'm a real leftist liberal, man. I'm like real leftist, and then I was like, what the fuck is this socialism shit? And then I started learning about that, and I was like, wait a second, what's the fuck is this communism shit? And I read like Marx, and and I actually, because I was like, arguing politics with people online and shit, and I was like, I gotta actually know what I'm talking about. So I started reading books, and I read the Communist Manifesto, and that led me to read other things, and I started reading like stuff about anarchism. And I was like, this is the shit that I actually believe. Like this is, and it's not like I want to see like an anarchist society necessarily. I just think that it's a good lens to view these political issues through. You know what I mean? So it's like I've gone from, the whole church hierarchy to hierarchy in general can go fuck itself.
Definitely. If you haven't checked it out already, Google the term solar punk, because I think that's solar punk, one word. I got it, Caleb. All right. For people listening, I just realized for people listening to the episode, they're like, what the fuck is going on? Go watch it on YouTube. And make the experience.
Watch it on YouTube and you'll get
talking about old guy shit
in real life.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the show. We'll see you next week. Bye.